Welcome to Work It, Live It, Own It, a show that explores how to upgrade your lifestyle through life lessons, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Here's your hostess, Sekola Lair. Welcome back to another episode of Work It, Live It, Own It. I'm your hostess, Sekola Lair, and today I have joined with me Chase Friedman. Thank you so much for joining us, Chase. Chase is the founder of Vanquish Media Group, and he is going to share his incredible journey as a brand purpose coach and strategist. Well, what does that mean? Well, Chase has a unique talent of balancing purpose and profit, helping businesses achieve sustainable growth while making a positive impact. So, whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, Chase's insights and strategies will inspire and empower us all to elevate our brand. So stay tuned to this episode because it's going to be packed with actionable advice and inspiring stories. Welcome, Chase. I'm so glad to have you here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for that beautiful intro. I will try to live up to that wonderful bar you've set.
Well, you got to have a cheerleader, right? You got to have someone to
Amen. I
boost you
love
in
it.
your corner.
I'm gonna hire you for my publicity.
Oh, okay. Well, Chase, let's get down to it. You have a remarkable philosophy around integrating social impact with business success. So, can you share your thoughts on how brands can achieve this balance and why it's essential for sustainable growth?
Yeah, fabulous place to kick off. As you mentioned, that is kind of my mantra. I believe that every business, every person has the ability to do good and do well, to profit with purpose. And I'll tell you, it's not merely just the potential for; it's a necessity. I believe it's becoming more and more of a necessity to stand up and stand out in the marketplace amidst the sea of sameness, right? By standing up for what you believe in, um, by digging deeper around why you do what you do, committing to those values, and not just talking the talk, but walking it as well, right? Um, we live in a time and an age where it's an exciting time, although it's tumultuous, where more people are demanding for the businesses and companies and products and services they support to not only align with their deeper values, but to stand for something, an experience, a social impact, a cause. And what I think intimidates a lot of entrepreneurs or small businesses is they think this has to be this world saving endeavor, change the world, solve social injustice and climate change. And that's not what it needs to be. Certainly, if you have that aspiration, amen. And I'm game to support you. Many of us are. But it can be something personal. It can be something truly that means something to you, that gives you that motivation, that passion to get up every morning and provide this service or product for your customers. And in turn, that attracts your tribe, right? I think a lot of us tend to feel we have to be all things to all people. We have to play this game of echoing the competition and chasing, like as you said earlier, this shiny object syndrome. But in
Mhm.
fact, if we kind of dig a little deeper, remain true to ourselves, we will inevitably attract that divine right client, that ideal client that we've been seeking, because we have similar shared values. And ultimately, people buy an emotion first. So, what better way to start than standing up for what you believe in?
I like it
Right.
because that kind of goes back to what some people will say, kind of focusing on and narrowing your niche down or your niche down because you have to stand for something. You can't be the end all be all to every single person. It's exhausting to do
It
that.
is exhausting. It's certainly led me to burnout.
Mhm.
It's led me to burnout at different points in my career, from starting a business, as I would call myself, an accidental entrepreneur in the beginning. Um, you got to keep the lights on. You got to pay the bills. You got to pay rent. And so it's easy to get sucked into that saying yes mentality, regardless of where the work is coming from. And that's okay to a certain extent when you're getting started. Absolutely. We all need to do that. But hopefully you're building to a point in your life, in your career, in your business, where you've earned the right to say no to certain things that don't fit, right? It's it's easy to kind of make these micro decisions that start to slowly veer you off path, but enough of those and enough time, you're way off course and you look back and how did I get here?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that it's if I would have told myself years ago that little bit of wisdom, that would have been a good coaching moment to my former self.
Yes. Same here. Same here. Now, speaking on that point, Chase, many of our listeners are at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey. So, what practical advice would you give to startups looking to establish a meaningful and effective foundation from day one?
Yeah, great question. This is something I advocate for all of my clients, whether they're just starting out or whether they are a Fortune 500 business and they've been around for many, many years. Um, you got to start with building a strong foundation, just like anything, just like building a home, right? You've got to start with a good brand foundation. And in that's the first phase of my work with my clients and framework is the discovery phase, discovering and developing who you are as a person, as a brand, what makes you unique, what's your compelling message, your story, your identity, how you're positioning yourself in the marketplace with your ideal consumer and amidst the competition. So having that clarity is essential, right? A lot of people want to skip the line and go to, well, just give me the quick fix lead gen and um, quick growth hacks and little kind of short-term band-aids. If you don't have that core foundation in place, you're you're missing out. You are destined for, quite frankly, losing a lot of time and money
Mm.
in trying to grow and scale your business. So I think it really comes down to what we just discussed: is being clear with the story and the messaging of yourself and your business, knowing your identity, and that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for myself. I come from a filmmaking background, storytelling, and yet kind of like the barefoot cobbler, it's hard to do for ourselves what we oftentimes find easy to do for others. So
Mhm.
that to me is the very first step in building a brand. I know everyone wants to kind of get going and generate revenue and see that immediate gratification and growth. I get it. I've been there, but I've seen it far too often that it's diminishing returns if you don't have the core identity of who you are and what you stand for as a business in place.
Exactly. I like that. I am one of those people that will shout it from the mountaintops, talking about core values. You got to know what your core values are in your life and in your business because that helps you to define who you are as an individual, how that defines you as a business owner, how you show up for other
Yeah.
people. And it also helps with longevity and sustainability because again, as you talked about, you start off on fire maybe and you're all about profit, but then you burn out because you're not rooted in standard values or principles of the driving force behind why you're doing what you're doing. So go ahead.
I was gonna say I mean, spot on. I mean, obviously we're drinking the same Kool-Aid, but I think look, the values and the beliefs are the scaffolding, right? That's absolutely essential. Um, and if anything, that kind of gives you that kind of that compass for how to develop the messaging around that. That's what I see constantly businesses big and small struggle with is can you clearly and consistently articulate why you exist, how you're different, and what it is you do for your customers. And that is how we lose clients time and time again. If that is not clear, we confuse our messaging to our clients. We have a muddied message that people don't allow people to identify us amidst the competition. I interview stakeholders at a business with you ask everybody on the founding team or from the bottom up to describe who they are, what they do as a brand, as a business, and you get 1,000 different answers. I mean, it's wild. So you've got to have that clarity and consistency from the start.
Well, thank you for that segue because you have transformed many brands. So, can you provide us a real world example of a campaign that stands out where purpose driven marketing led to significant growth and engagement?
Sure. Um, I'll give you an example of actually a nonprofit that we've worked with. Um, the Brain Aneurysm Foundation. They've been around for 20. Well, we started work with them at least 20 years. And they've had a good amount of success, but they were kind of hitting a plateau. Um, their kind of legacy donors and members and supporters were, there's a little bit of attrition and churn there. They needed to attract a new and slightly younger demographic. And this is something that is, when you talk about brain aneurysms, like people go, "What? Oh, I think I've heard of that. What does that mean? What is that?" Now, nonprofit usually has purpose and passion in spades, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
But oftentimes need that clarity of message to kind of really penetrate and break through. And through a series of messaging and campaigns that we developed, we reframed what they do and what their purpose was to be a little bit more approachable to everyone, right? The fact that it affects 1 in 50 people, the fact that every 10 minutes a brain aneurysm rupture, making it clear that this is something that is more commonplace than you might expect. Um, raising the visibility with their donors, with their survivors, with their supporters around misdiagnosis. So it was just a fine tune of the dial. It wasn't rewriting this script for them necessarily. We want to always stay true to what their purpose is, but it was presenting it in a different and simpler and more accessible way. Whereas previously it was a little bit more heavy on medical jargon and the science of it, which is also super important,
Mhm.
but you have to meet people where they are. So that they kind of wake up and think, you know what? Wow, this does affect someone I know, an aunt, a cousin, a friend, someone at work, and just being the start of the conversation, and then having a sequence of messaging that will nurture them deeper and deeper into that to learn more and to find out ways they can support. So that's kind of one example where we help redefine their messaging, their visual identity, launch campaigns around it. We saw incredible growth, especially with the younger demographic that had never heard about this before and came to realize that it had affected many people in their family and their ancestry. It affected my maternal grandmother, and I didn't know much about it when I started working with the organization. So
Mhm.
it was a bit of a cool personal journey for me as well.
I like how you did that because I've I've known people who personally have had brain aneurysms. Some of them were fortunate enough to survive brain aneurysms, but again, you tweaked the messaging to where you met the audience or people where they are by saying, "Hey," giving statistics how it can affect people. And then people were like, you know what? Yeah, I knew someone who had that, or let me learn more about this. What are some of the causes? What are some identifying symptoms? Things of that nature about the audience. You were right. Nonprofits do have that penchant for passion and purpose, but it's got to be relatable to the audience and to people that they're really trying to reach. So good job. I like
Thank you.
that. Um, now measuring success is crucial, right? How do you evaluate the effectiveness of purpose-driven initiatives? And what metrics do you find most valuable in assessing both social impact and business performance?
Really, really great and tough question to answer. I think there's always this tug of war between, as marketers and as brands, between performance marketing, which is that sort of immediate, tangible, quick hit, right? Paid ads, PPC, things of that nature, where it is the tactics are specifically designed to generate very detailed, measurable results. However, it's kind of like it's a little bit like a drug, right? You have to continue to feed the beast. You have to continue to allocate more and more funds and effort and time and energy to stay competitive when everyone else is doing many of the same tactics, right? And your
Mhm,
competition. So on one hand, you've got performance marketing, which is kind of those immediate KPIs around, website visits or bookings or clicks or impressions or reach, things of that nature. When you look at the other side of it, and you look at brand marketing, um, I look at it as more of a longitudinal kind of effort, right? It's kind of like more of a marathon, not a sprint. You're investing in the brand and collateral and a lot of content marketing, for example, storytelling, um, that you want over time to build a deeper, more lasting relationship, right? So performance marketing is more sort of interruptive. Brand marketing is more of that kind of magnetic pull. How are we really ingratiating and exciting our customers about working with us? And not just as a one-time transactional thing because they saw an ad or a discount or something like that, but really believing deeper in who we are, so they become, from audiences into advocates and ambassadors, being loyal to the brand. I think the way we measure that is, things like, customer lifetime value, for example, right? What is the overall kind of worth and value that we're able to kind of increase from a customer standpoint, doing business with us repeatedly over time versus a one-time transaction. Um, I think you can look at things like brand equity and brand trust, which are a little bit more intangible, but can still certainly be measured. The way you're perceived in the marketplace. Um, the other things around brand, right? With a good nurtured brand, you're seeing things like increasing margins, right? People are willing to pay more, pay a premium for a brand they trust and believe in, right? And in some cases, 2 to 3 times more as a price premium. So that's all about increasing margins. You take a look at Apple, for example, right? A lot of time, many cases, the actual product they deliver, the specs of it and the actual device, similar, if not the same as any products out there. And yet the perceived value as the brand allows them to charge a higher fees. We're talking about margin. We talk about market share. We talked earlier about how can you attract more people to kind of come to and flock and stick with your brand. More people are likely to do business with you over a competitor where you have a compelling purpose statement that aligns with them versus one who doesn't. So you're kind of increasing market share. And then a variety of things such as employee engagement and retention. More and more people want to work for those brands that align with their values. You're looking at innovation and creativity. So all those things, I think, some qualitative and some quantitative, that are once again building a stronger, more lasting foundation for the performance of your business versus those kind of quick hit, almost fad dieting performance marketing tactics,
Mhm.
but in balance.
Okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper into that. So would you say when you're saying longitudinal, realistically, if you were to tell an aspiring entrepreneur or someone who's been in it for a few years, how long would you say it would take them to actually see a turnaround where they're not grinding so hard and then they just start getting clients by referral because someone resonated with that brand?
Mhm.
Where do you see that pivotal turn for them to actually start seeing those results?
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish I had a definitive answer for you, and it's not going to evade it. It's different for every business and every industry and every
Mhm,
company. It really, really is. Um, I would say the earlier on in the way you were applying this as a young business, I would
mhm.
argue that is more, you're more agile and nimble to kind of course correct. Much harder for a big legacy business to make that adjustment and therefore a longer amount of time to see results. There's cases where we'll see some of these great results within, a matter of months, let's say 6 months to be conservative, to really see the tide swing in terms of not only increasing, the amount of overall revenue, new leads, new discovery calls booked, um, greater engagement with their content, starting to see kind of repeat business, all the way up to, I would say, more realistically, maybe 12 to 18 months. It doesn't mean you're not going to see results sooner, but I'm talking about a full kind of transformation of the business, because it doesn't just happen with a quick fix. It doesn't just happen with tweaking the messaging or the look and feel of some of your content or some of these tactics. And that's kind of what is tough for a lot of people to swallow, right? This is the reality is it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Right.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of clients that make that initial commitment to kind of, walk the talk. And
Mhm.
after maybe 1 or 2, and at most 3 months, they get impatient and they, hit the ejector button, right? They're like, this isn't this isn't changing things for us holistically. We're not really seeing the incredible kind of change and transformation of our numbers we were hoping. And they pivot. And unfortunately, it's premature. It's a little bit reactive. And for better or worse, honestly, it shows me where their real values lie. Um, you know, there's a lot of brands out there that'll kind of what we kind of call purpose washing or checking the box, right?
Mm,
Latching on to a message because they think it sounds good, it's kind of resonate with their customers. But when it comes time to quarterly revenue, things aren't hitting the mark, they abandon it, right? They quit it.
right.
Um, it does take time and it does take perseverance to see results. But I will tell you, you will be more fulfilled in the business that you are building and running because you're proud of it. You're building the legacy. You are creating something that is lasting versus trying to latch on to every quick fix, every trend that comes about that might give you a quick little blip in revenue, but I promise you is just going to equalize right back down. Back to that kind of fad dieting, right? Great, we'll
Right.
stick to a protocol, but as long as we stick to it, right,
Right.
religiously, even though we're miserable,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe we'll shed a few pounds, but the moment I kind of slip, I'm putting it back on. I mean, it's not an exact correlation, but you can
No, it
imagine
is.
it.
I would disagree on that one because it is. If you think about it, when people say I'm going to go on a diet, right? They may lose the weight and they see those instantaneous results and they're like, "Oh goodness." And yes, you may go on vacation or you slack off for a while and then the weight starts coming back on, if not more than what you lost. Instead of looking at it from the beginning saying, "Hey, this is a lifestyle tweak. I'm doing this for the long haul. I'm doing this for longevity. I'm doing this for health. I'm not just doing this for weight loss. I'm doing this for health." Because, granted, if you are healthy, you are eating healthy, it's going to reflect. It may not take it instantly and within 3 months. You might see some adjustments in 3 months, but over time, in a year or two, and you compare the growth or the changes that have happened in your business, yes, I would compare that to versus someone doing a fad diet versus someone doing a lifestyle tweak for the long haul. So, Chase, let me ask you this because this is what this podcast is truly about. Everybody has their hero, heroine story, how they started, where they are now, and you have a successful, thriving business, but every successful entrepreneur faces its challenges. Can you tell us about some of the setbacks you've encountered and the strategies you've used to overcome them to continue building a thriving business?
Yeah, amen. I thank you for asking that because we do see a lot of these self-anointed gurus and experts out there on social media that seem to just figure it out overnight, overnight successes. Maybe there's some out there, but that's not reality as a whole. I have gone through my fair share of struggles, personally, professionally in life. It took me, I've had a very roundabout way to where I am today. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been linear. Um, I could have stuck with a corporate job earlier on in my career and just kind of put my head down and, gone with the flow. That wasn't me. That wasn't in my character, my persona. Maybe a bit of stubbornness, but I knew I needed to create something that allowed me a little bit more autonomy, independence, freedom, creativity, collaboration, and of course, purpose in my life. Like I said, starting out in my business, me, myself, and I, saying yes to a lot of things, and quite frankly, over a couple of years, looking back and really not even recognizing myself or what I had created. Um,
Mm,
Proud of the work, but working with certain clients and certain projects that didn't feel aligned. It felt like work. It felt like I was working for the business rather on the business. And wait a minute, isn't this just a typical job? That's led to burnout, physical, emotional, mental. That's led to anxiety and stress. That's led to, um, some mental health struggles and issues, quite frankly. Um, and, even at our peak as a business, revenue client wise, it felt unfulfilling at times. And it took being brought to my knees where within a matter of 3 to 4 months, we went from pretty much our best month and quarter to date to almost being completely wiped out for a variety of
Mm.
reasons, losing clients, losing revenue, going through some personal struggles, death of a mentor, health issues. I mean, it was, taking body blows
Yeah.
and being brought to your knees instead of hanging out and saying, all right, well, I give up. Let's try something different. Um, it actually gave me the resolve and the resilience to dig a little bit deeper and really think hard and long and deep about what it was I wanted out of life and my business and my career. And that was kind of for me that path and pursuit of purpose and finding that for myself. And it is a constant affair. I don't think there is a there. Hey, I made it. It
Right.
is an everyday endeavor, but I consider my purpose to help others discover and develop theirs and turn it into the life and business of their dreams. Um, so that was necessary. I don't recommend everyone wait until they're brought to their knees to dig deep and find that. Um, but I can tell you it has not been an easy journey. It can be lonely, it can be isolating. Another bit of wisdom I wish I would have given my former self is really align yourself with a great mentor or a coach, someone to be by your side. As an entrepreneur, it's tough. We wear the weight of weight of the world on our shoulders. Um, I think what's worked for me and helping build resilience is mindset. Um, Really,
Mhm.
first and foremost, learning to set healthy boundaries in work and life. Learning to, as my former mentor said, get your mind right, working truly hard on my mental health day in, day out, to take care of me, put on my own oxygen mask first, right? At
Right.
times. And try to, continuously each and every day take one step closer towards that pursuit of purpose. What is it that is fulfilling me and what am I meant to be doing in this life? I know that kind of sounds a little bit maybe flighty and cliche to some people, but at least in my journey, one of the biggest setbacks was dealing with mindset and mental health, and all the success and revenue in the world wasn't going to fix that. It was me.
Right. Because at the end of the day, we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and like what we see within ourselves. And if we can start there mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and be fit in those circles, in those areas, then we can effectively, passionately, with purpose, show up in our everyday lives, in our businesses as well. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing that because everyone has their highs and lows. We all have highs and lows in our business. Especially if we have them in our personal life, we're going to have them in business as well. So, thank you for taking time to actually share some of your story with us. And guys, this is what this podcast is about. It is about giving you some practical tips and strategies along the way, but it's also sharing things that I wish I learned when starting a business and bringing on other people who are sharing their story, their passion, their purpose in life, but also sharing the hindsights in their business as well. So if you find that this episode resonates with you, download this episode, bookmark it, save it. Most importantly, share it with others who align with this same type of message. Now, Chase, before I let you go, I have two rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, what's the most inspiring book you've ever read?
Wow. Okay. Um, Gosh, that's a good one. So, the most inspiring book I've ever read, I would say it's The Pursuit of Happiness, Dalai Lama.
Okay.
That, I think for me, and it's got lessons beyond just kind of the spiritual and the personal, whichever way, you align your values. I think it teaches something that is great that I need to continue to work on in my daily life is, empathy and patience and equanimity. We exist in a world where there's a lot of pressure to perform, to succeed, judgment, criticism. And I think that just kind of helps me bring back that inner locus of control here, being compassionate with others, whether they're on the same kind of pace or plane as I am, and compassion for myself. So that's probably one of the better ones I've read.
Okay. Love it. Second question, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, you touched on this a little bit, but if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
You don't have to walk it alone. Um, you know, some of us have partners in business. Some of us do it alone. Some of us are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. Um,
Mhm,
and I wasn't, I didn't have a mentor in the earlier part of my careers. If anything, I was working for people that I learned more about what I didn't want to be and become in life. And so that was a lesson into itself. I was
mhm,
fortunate to have someone in my life who was a best friend and mentor, uh, a soulmate in some ways. And he was a brilliant man. And unfortunately, lost him a couple of years ago, tragically, kind of a little too soon. But
mhm,
that he believed in me in ways that I couldn't believe in myself. And that's really
mhm.
hard to find. That's really hard to find in your life, right? And so,
Yeah.
I don't think it just has to look and feel exactly like that. There can be a variety of different mentors, people that fill you up in different ways. But I also think on the flip side of it, even with a mentor, is having a coach. I don't care if it's a life coach, a business coach, a purpose coach, a soul, whatever you want to call it. Someone that is there to just as little as be a sounding board, provide accountability, provide a little bit of direction. I think it's essential. It helps you feel a little less isolated, and a little bit more sort of confident in the journey. I haven't started that until very, very recently. I think it's a big reason why I like to be able to do that for others, kind of like this proxy high. But having that support system, and not just coach and mentor, but family, friends, peers, whomever that is, um, I know especially during COVID, I started to become further and further detached from community and connection with my peers. And I think we got to really work on those muscles and kind of bring that back into our everyday lives so that we feel we have a support system and it's not just all on our shoulders.
Amen. Love it.
Mhm.
Good. You don't have to walk it alone. I like that. But thank you, Chase, for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us today. Your journey is a testament to the power of combining purpose with profit. And to our listeners out there, I hope you found today's episode inspiring and enlightening, just like I did. And remember, it's not just about doing well, it's also about doing good. So stay tuned for more empowering episodes of Work It, Live It, Own It. Until next time, keep thriving and keep making a difference. Take care.